Welcome to the Streets and People podcast, where we explore having more transport options that are less hassle to use. Hosted by GetAroundCaboolture, we bring you 3 types of episodes. People and Projects share stories of change. Not Everyone Drives gives voice to non-drivers. Road Rules 360 unpacks road rules for people outside a car. Music by Grand Project, and let's make our Grand Project reimagining streets made for people. Today we're doing one of our People and Projects episodes. I'm here in the studio with Tom Flood of Ravello Creative, who I just think is one of these people who just really changed the way we see things, because he creates these little posters and it makes you wake up. So I was been completely desperate to get Tom on the show for a good while, and finally we got it happening today. So this is very much fun. I'm here on Gubbi Gubbi country in Queensland in Caboolture. Tom, whereabouts are you calling from?
I am about 45 minutes west of Toronto in a city called Hamilton.
What made you interested in this area of creating interesting posters and designs with ironic statements? And then why is it that it matters to you creating those items?
What got me into this space is really just a simple bike ride with my kids to school for the very first time. I was someone who biked around Toronto when I lived in Toronto for many years, working in the advertising world. And it wasn't really until I took my kids out on their bikes to go to school that I really saw the disparity and the imbalance on our streets. I really had not had that moment of clarity until being out there with them. And getting involved a little bit, starting to follow city council, starting to go to some meetings. And I had no background in this space at all. I'm just a dad with their kids trying to get them to school. But hearing some of the rhetoric around some of the safe streets measures that were going to be going in to make things better, I thought for everybody. But I think what really lit a fire under me was being framed as some sort of radical fringe person by some members of council for wanting some of these really basic road safety measures so we could get our kids to and from school. So that really set me down this path. The idea that wanting safe streets was radical just blew my mind. I wasn't from this world, and no interest in transportation, in politics, and municipal affairs, none of that. I just couldn't believe it. So that's how I started in this journey, and then I just really started to share our day-to-day life of going to and from school, and I tried to frame it in a way that maybe people could understand to or relate to in a different way.
And so why is it important to you?
At the very beginning, to be honest, it was very selfish. I just wanted my kids to be able to get to school without me having to necessarily herd them around. But as you obviously get more involved, and being a little bit tongue-in-cheek there, the benefits are so huge, especially to youth, because that was my entry point into this, for having some independence and mobility. And the more independence and mobility they have, the better it is for everybody, including myself as a parent who wants them out the door and I can sit back and have a coffee a little bit longer. But again, it's that independence and their ability to move through our cities without being carted around is so invaluable, and the joy that they get from that and all the health benefits, I think we already know about that, are so huge. And just seeing that firsthand as a parent was why it was initially important to me.
I think what is so interesting is I, like you, have no experience in this. I just wanted a bus service for myself, and I was like, this cannot be functioning for anyone who doesn't drive. This is rubbish. Like you just started turning up and meeting counsellors and doing all that sort of stuff. And before you know, you're sucked into this vortex of obsession. There's so much opportunity is the way that I put it. And what I find a lot in transport land is there's a lot of earnestness about stuff. Everyone's got their ideological positions, and it takes away from the just everydayness of it. That's been my experience.
Absolutely correct in what you're saying, and I think that's a big part of what's been missing from the communication strategy in the Safe Street, Complete Streets, and city building space is that all of these benefits that we see once you get sucked into this vortex are all things that everybody would want. But it's just been framed backwards for so long. And essentially, we've had only a couple of people holding the microphone in this space, which has been dominated by auto manufacturers and certain politicians. So if we have the opportunity to look at how we can reframe these issues that have been created to be divisive and polarizing and reframe them in ways that people can understand to and relate to and see the benefits for their life, i.e. how we do in regular consumer marketing, then I think we have an opportunity to start maybe changing some hearts and minds.
Actually, let's go down that road, because you've come from an advertising background. So what is it from your advertising background that really helps you craft your skills? You cut your teeth on the sort of evil empire, so to speak, because you're on the other side of the fence at some level, and now you're on this side of the fence. And what an interesting way that I frame it, we're the good guys, they're the bad guys, that I have just framed it. But at some level, maybe it feels like that. Maybe that's not right what I'm saying. What's your sense of how advertising is actually part of the problem, and what training did that give you now for the way that you create your posters?
Yeah, I think advertising gave me a good insight into how to connect with different audiences, that's for sure, and maybe helping develop creative strategies. But I think for me, it's really about pulling out and connecting with people on a more emotional level. We tend to talk so much about numbers and statistics and things that a regular audience, a broader audience, a mainstream audience, how I think of myself, I don't care. And I'm going to be very frank, I don't care about all the numbers. Tell me what's in it for me, right? We don't necessarily sell consumer products that way, so why do we have to sell safe streets that way? We need to connect with people on an emotional, I think, and a human level, and really connect with them in a way that they can relate to in their life. And what is the immediate thing that's going to benefit them? And that's a good opportunity to start reshaping how we position safe streets. Again, there is a good guy, bad guy aspect. I think there's a time and place for that, but I don't think it's extremely helpful when we're trying to reach across that aisle. I see myself on both sides. I drive my kids a lot. I am the average parent. I just happen to think that it'd be really great if we had more opportunity and options for everyone to travel in a different way.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot. If a car company, a big SUV pickup truck car company, came to you and they said, we want you to create one of your great ads for our car, would you now pick up that contract?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if I would. I've had a few of these moments in my career where I've had to really see where my values are as far as what I'm going to be doing in a career. So I'm not sure. I don't want to say no definitively. I don't think I would, to be perfectly honest. But if there was some serious change of heart and change of minds of a campaign and a direction for someone, then maybe I just never say never. But right off the bat, I don't think I would.
All right, so let's talk about some of your, it's difficult because we're here on an audio show. What I want to do is put a whole lot of your posters on our website, and I'm going to do a specific carousel for Tom Flood posters in the middle because I think they're so good. So I've got an image up here, which is one that I've bought from you, which is smoking tables next to non-smoking tables used to be considered normal too, is the caption. But then there's this image of presumably your little boy next to a big truck, some kind of lorry, which presumably would have had diesel fuel. And the little road shoulder that your boy is riding on, he's got a helmet on. And the road is actually really cracked and pockmarked and difficult to navigate. That's a photo that you have used a lot with different slogans. And in fact, one of those posters is being used for the Vision Zero in Vancouver. I think air pollution is a huge problem in transport. We haven't got that named. And I've actually got an air pollution specialist coming up on the show to talk about air pollution. What made you start to look at air pollution as part of the problems, not just the crashes, not just the spatial side of things?
And I don't see that even as the primary message, even though that's so clearly how you read it and which makes perfect sense. To me, the idea was more about the delineation when we used to sit in restaurants and one table right next to the table was smoking and one wasn't. Just how clear the delineation is and kind of false it is and how there is no safeguard. I actually haven't thought about it like that too much, to be honest.
Isn't that interesting? I don't know whether it's one of your posters, but you've got don't smoke cigarettes outside the schoolyard, but you can have your car chugging away, which is 20 times more toxic. There, you have these big, huge queues of lots of cars creating all this congestion around right at the tailpipe height of a child. And that's what they're ingesting straight into their bloodstreams. So I didn't realize that wasn't your intention with that. So that's very funny because that one has been used. There is no amount of helmet, high vis that will protect you as well.
Correct. Yeah. That was the other one they did for that campaign. Yes.
So you work with a company called The Biking Lawyer. Is that a client of yours?
Yeah, just one of my clients.
So this morning there was one, and it says, normal is accepting road violence, accepting road fatalities, accepting pedestrian fatalities, accepting cyclist fatalities, accepting excessive speeds, accepting unsafe streets, accepting pollution, accepting gridlock, accepting loss of youth mobility, accepting the loss of senior mobility. And then the radical is wanting to prevent road violence, wanting to prevent road fatalities and then wanting on all these other things. And what I love about the way that you frame things is you take out the jargon, you take out the bias, you take out this kind of radical lens, and you go, yeah, this is straight common sense.
Yeah, and a lot of that just comes down to, number one, the jargon is that I don't come from this space. The lens I look through is the lens I had 10 years ago when I was biking these kids to school. That's the same lens that I have, and it's such common sense. And I think we lose that, and I think it's not talked about enough about how common and normal all of these things are, but they've been so twisted and warped over so many years that we've lost sight of it. So if there's one thing I would like to accomplish in this space, never really had a plan, to be honest, I was just venting and it snowballed, is to somewhat highlight the absurdity that we've normalized on our streets. Just pull the curtains back and say, look, this is not normal what we've framed up as normal on our streets.
It has snowballed because here we are, and you've been on lots of different blogs and podcasts by now. But I've also seen your face pop up over here in Stockholm and over here in other places. Are you now invited to speak or present at events?
Over the last 5 years, I've done a lot of lectures at universities and different events and organizations and conferences. It was never part of my plan, and I'm always very honored that people ask, and I'm happy to do it when I can make it work. But yeah, it's been a bit of a whirlwind, to be completely honest. It's not what I had scoped out, but I think in this space, it's not what any of us that are involved in this place thought they'd be doing necessarily.
And what I noticed, I was at a transport thing last night, a networking event, and I noticed people are really passionate. They really want to do good stuff. Often they find the institutions they're in thwart that process. So my experience is in transport land, actually people want to do some really good stuff. And I don't know if you've had senior departmental heads approach you in transport organizations and departments at all?
I've had various people approach me offline to talk about how they can potentially position things when they're speaking to different people within the city or with some of their constituents or different people that may have different perspectives. So a lot of that work has been offline and behind the scenes and saying, hey, yeah, try this, or maybe this will work.
And what I found doing this is when I started, I was like those politicians, those transport people, those whatever. And I still do that to an extent because it is frustrating. But what I notice is actually that people are people, and then sometimes they are politicians, and sometimes they are engineers, and sometimes they head up the department. It's much more human than you imagine.
For sure. And we all share a similar struggle in life. A lot of us go through the same challenges every single day. If I'm driving to work and I don't want all these cars, then how can we talk about this in a different way? Is it getting rid of the bike lane? Is that really the best move to get traffic moving? You know, there's a public persona from some people and there's a private persona. Again, that's the way I see it. And I think you have to have hope in that people are good. When you get down to it, there is good there. There's just been such a twisted narrative in this space so specifically that we just have to keep chipping away at and keep offering different ways to see things that have been done one way for so long.
So here in Australia, one of the car companies has just put in this advertising campaign for a pickup truck. It says, "Be more tank," and it's quite divisive. And there are other ones, I gather, where you are in a big pickup truck and they're laughing at people on a cargo bike, getting their children to laugh at people on cargo bikes. So from a advertising, because you've got that lens, I wonder if you would be open to sharing your thoughts on advertising being used in that way, and maybe what are some ways that the people in our community who are listening could really start to go, how can that pass for an appropriate advertising campaign?
Yeah, I think I know the one you're speaking of where they're going by and the kids are in the back laughing at the people on the bikes. That's as dated as you can get. They're essentially pointing at the bicycle being such a dated, antiquated item, yet the position they've taken with this advertisement is the most old-fashioned, antiquated way in this space, is that car is good, everything else is bad. It's an embarrassing, shocking ad, to be honest. But the problem is that we know the problem is there is billions of dollars poured into this all the time, but I don't know if I have a way that people can combat this, but that ad specifically is just so bad. I don't really have many words to describe it that are very thoughtful, to be perfectly honest. But I just think, again, it's about seeing something like that and taking a moment, taking a breath, and seeing how we can shift that. To me, again, I think I commented on this ad, is that to me that the shift there is that they're calling out the bicycle as being something antiquated, yet the messaging they're using is completely antiquated in the past. So that's something that can be done real fast.
And if you were to create an advertising campaign, a poster, to flip it on its head, what would be your tagline, or how would you recraft it so that you would take that as an ironic statement rather than as a serious statement?
That's a great question. I don't know if I have an answer right now to give you how I would do it, to be totally honest. It would take a few moments, and I don't think I have enough time on this podcast to do it, but I will send you something after.
Yeah, that'd be amazing, because they've put in all these complaints about it. And I think you've done some work with Better Streets. On that advocacy page that we have connecting with everybody, there's a whole lot of up in arms about it. So it would be really good almost to fight fire with fire. And I think that's what I like about your posters, is that it fights fire with fire, but in this very light-hearted, non-aggressive way.
Yeah, that's just who I am. I think it's just my personality coming out into that as well, because I think, again, there's a time and place to be extremely pointed and extremely angry, but I think you can do that also in a way that is sometimes a little subversive.
So we're up to the stage in the show where, say, there are people in the community who want change. So if someone's in advocacy, how can they use your posters, or what are some ideas of ways that they could use your posters? Because you can just buy them. If you see one, you can reach out to you and just say, can you make it in this size? And you can get the electronic and print it out anywhere across the world. So you just get it printed locally, but you buy the right to have it. So what are some of the more interesting ways that you have seen being used by advocates across the world?
Yeah, it's been pretty amazing to see some of the uptake of some of these. I tip my hat to the advocates out there that do the hard work day in and day out, because that is not an easy job and an easy thing to do. It's something I don't do. I was on the ground a bit more many years ago. So number one is I tip my hat to the people that do that, because yeah, it is sometimes a very thankless job to sit in those long meetings at council and feel like you're getting nowhere. Yeah, number one, thank you very much. And number two is, yeah, there's been unbelievable things. People have put up giant billboards themselves on their own stores. There's billboards out in Vancouver now, which is unbelievable, having these outdoor boards. There's digital screens that are up in New Zealand as part of this bike sharing system. They were running this Bicycles Deliver the Freedom that auto ads promise. It's been wild. It's from everything from a wild posting on a city utility pole, a la what you would do with old bands, post them there, to storefront windows. People are putting them on top of those crossing flags. I don't know if you have the crossing flags where you are, but there's little flags that people have to wave as they cross the street so drivers can see them and not hit them.
We've got some bad pedestrian safety strategies, but not that one. So for our listener, basically the road safety strategy they put in for pedestrians is it's your responsibility to carry a big yellow flag as you cross the street, because we're not going to provide any safe infrastructure for you while these cars are whizzing past at however many miles an hour. Like, it was completely ludicrous.
Yeah, you get the flag at one side, you walk across, wave it real high, and then drop it. I laugh because it is so ludicrous. But yeah, people have been putting these posters and stickers up all over, and it's pretty moving sometimes to see how far some of these messages have traveled. And again, all because of the people out there that have been doing it.
And I might actually do that. I might just buy one of it and then get a whole lot printed out, and just something like, maybe I shouldn't be admitting this on air, but there's one which is, we make safe streets for cars so they can go quickly, so the rest of us have to be afraid. I can't remember the quote. You say the quote.
I think, we ask everyone outside of the car to be safe so that drivers can be dangerous.
Exactly. So thank you very much. I'm great at misquoting you. I have a dream to be really good at memorizing things. So I think what would be really good actually is, as an idea, as an advocate, and maybe I'll suggest this on the Better Streets community pages, is to buy your posters. Not at all expensive, it's totally affordable, which I really appreciate as a community advocate. I understand you need to make money, but you make it so affordable it's possible. So I thank you very much for that one. One of the things in advocacy land, what you could do is download it, buy it. If the one that you see isn't there available, contact Tom and he will kindly create the right shape and size for you. And then create little posters and stick them on corners like that one. We make roads safe for drivers and dangerous for everybody else. And stick that on telegraph poles and things like that. I'm not advocating anything illegal, by the way. This is entirely your responsibility. I'm not having anything to do with that. But I think that's a really good way that advocates can use your work. And if we have a road safety organisation, I think rather than wringing their fingers going, oh, we've got this terrible problem of mortality rates increasing, actually, why don't we just get your advertising campaign or even hire you for more work? I'm not saying everybody should do that. Not everyone has that budget. But if there's budget, I'm not here to promote your work necessarily, but I think it is so fantastic and refreshing. So let's say somebody's in the community, a mum with 2 small kids, or somebody with a disability, lives with chronic pain, insecure housing, very limited finances. So these are people who are our listeners, who are very strong supporters. And also I'd like to say somebody working at the bottom of the food chain at council, say in the transport department, in the active transport team, but right at the bottom of the food chain. What's something that each of these people could do? Some ways that you have thought has been very effective with others in getting that message across?
I can only speak from what my background is in the spaces on the communication side. So what I think is really important for whatever position we are in life and where we are in our jobs is first, what are you trying to say? And know who you're saying that to. So really understand, number one, the objective of what you're trying to get across, and number two, who your audience is. And from that point, work backwards and understand how you can tailor a message that can be relatable in a way that they can understand. That's really the best advice I could give from a communications perspective, and be clear. Keep things very simple, emotional, and relatable. That's the trifecta for me, what I think is important in trying to not just convert people, but trying to connect with people, essentially, in a way that maybe they have not seen some of these issues that we all face on a day-to-day. So for me, when I'm talking with everyday people, I guess, because I still consider myself the everyday person. I don't consider myself an advocate. I just see myself as a parent first. The way I try to connect with people is for them to see it as a parent, not as a Safe Streets advocate, not as someone from transport, just a parent. What is the benefit there? What am I going to get out of what I would be proposing? So that's what I think is important. Really know your audience and know what you're trying to get across, and then tailor it specifically for the person.
And so when you say emotional, what do you mean? Because there's all this stuff about you make people afraid, which increases sales. You don't want that. So what do you mean by emotional?
Yeah, it can be funny. It can be touching. It can be moving. It can be dramatic. It can be any of the emotions that trigger a response in humans, as opposed to just something so statistical that really doesn't resonate with a lot of people. Sure, obviously data research is so important to turn policy, and it is really needed. But if you're trying to connect with the average person, they want to connect on a more emotional level. It's the beginning of advertising. Just how do we connect with people? What do we respond to? We respond to emotion as humans, and a lot of the time these issues aren't framed up using emotional levers. It's not that I do this perfectly by any means. I just think it's another way in that we could really look at going after.
Yeah, I definitely think that you have to respect your listener.
Yeah.
So buttonholing is emotional, but not really ideal. You should do this and you should do that. Politicians really cop a lot of that, actually. I see that on their social media pages. You should do this and you should do that. And where's this? And why haven't I got a swimming pool? And all this sort of stuff. So I think there is a way you've got to really respect that this person is someone just trying to do their best.
That's a good way to go into anything, for sure. I lose sight of that myself, but that is the best way to start that conversation. Truly connecting is the key, I think, in changing.
And Toronto has had a big shift because it had lots of bike lanes, and there's a politician there who has been quite divisive in the space. So in this hyper-political space in Toronto, which is very clear, there's a lot of anti-bike sentiment. So as an advocate in the space, how can a community member connect with other people about why this is without getting into that fear, angry, buttonholing space?
I guess it's something that's not news, so I'll share it anyways, but connecting with like-minded individuals to come up with the best strategy possible for the specific situation that's going on. To me, it comes down to outlining specific targets and objectives. And I know that sounds a bit boring, but the background work might be boring to get to the results you need. But I think we have to look at the way we approach everything in this kind of advocacy space and almost run it as you would a business. Like, we got to really get organized, thoughtful, and a collective and unified voice, and then attack what we need to specifically attack.
Yeah, somebody said to me very early on, or maybe I read it, you have to be someone that the person likes, because nobody will do anything for somebody they don't like. So you have to be likable, which is not always easy, because one of my local politicians, he's blocked me from his social media channel, which he's not allowed to do under the code of conduct. He's warmed me in person, but he just doesn't want me on his social media channel because I point out some of the anomalies to do with the way that he sees things. So it's not an easy journey to travel at all.
For me, my role in this space is really, how can we frame and communicate things slightly different than they've been done before, to hopefully open some people's eyes to seeing the spaces as they haven't before. That's, if anything, what I'm looking to do.
So just before we wrap up, is there anything else you would like me to ask that I forgot to ask? Final thoughts, anything you would like to share, apart from buy the posters and put them up everywhere and send them amongst your friends, because I think they really change the way that we see things. So I would love everybody to just buy them. And that's me, just because I'm such a super fan.
There's nothing else I really have to add other than thank you for having me on, and thank you for what you're doing. And yeah, again, I can't say enough good things about the people that are doing the hard work like yourself. That takes a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of time. For me, I come up with a little bit of copy and creative, whatever. It's the people that are doing all the work on the ground that I really, really respect in this space. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, it is a lot of work, but I get so much reward from it. I actually really enjoy it. And I think if you're expecting a particular outcome from an event, I write this letter, they change the legislation. That's not going to work. It has to be quite a concerted effort, and it does take time, but I don't know, maybe I found my niche or whatever it is. I actually really enjoy it. I enjoy the process of it. And it's only because of people like you who provide the materials that those of us who are sitting there writing letters can send them on. I'm inclined to actually put some of your posters, I'm going to buy a whole lot of them, I've decided, and I'm going to put them in every submission to council and state government, because I think, let's do that. What's wrong with putting that in every single letter? You just put it on the front page and you go, yeah, normal, radical. I think this is such a great way, and I hadn't even thought about it until just then. So
awesome.
We'll put links in the show notes and everything. So thank you so much for taking the time again for getting this recording. It's been great fun, and I've really appreciated having you on the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to the Streets and People podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone who'd find it helpful. Your small action could make a big difference. We're on all the usual podcasting platforms, so don't miss a single story. To find out what else we do, check out GetAroundCaboolture.au. Until next time, remember, there's more than one way to get where you're going. Keep moving, keep listening, and keep imagining streets made for people.